Hello, welcome to a brief video lecture that I've prepared for you with my comments and concerns on your rough drafts of your critical analysis assignment. The main thing that I wanted to talk about was the overall structure of the critical analysis. Critical analysis um, follows the same predictable structure of a critique, a review, an evaluation. And so I wanted to go over that with you because one of the things that I saw in looking at your drafts was kind of a breakdown of this. And as I said in class, I don't mean to be overly prescriptive about this, but it is a kind of a rhetorical convention. And oftentimes, rhetorical conventions exist for a reason, and they help to kind of grease the wheels of communication. And so we need to keep those in mind. And oftentimes, I know you don't want to be conventional or conformist, but sometimes we have to conform to these rhetorical conventions to make the process of communication easier. So the first thing that we're looking at here is the introduction, and that tends to be somewhat broad. You kind of introduce the thing that you're talking about, and also maybe the particular artifact or document, the text that you're dealing with in your introduction. And then the second paragraph, a very helpful paragraph in many situations for writers, to keep you from overloading your introduction, that we kind of have this background or overview. I oftentimes call it a bridge paragraph. And in many types of reviews, we see kind of a summary of things. A plot summary, a synopsis, that kind of thing. Or if we're dealing with some type of an artifact, a description of it. And if this is visual, you can even insert an image into your document. A little caution here about the background overview section, the summary, the description is sometimes in my first year writing class, I'll have students do an evaluation essay, and they do like movie reviews and restaurant reviews and book reviews and things like that. And sometimes once you get into that mode of writing, kind of this description, overview, summary, you take that particular rhetorical stance in your essay. Sometimes it has a tendency to take over the essay. And so sometimes I've seen, and this tends to happen mostly in first year writing, that this summary goes on for 3 or 4 pages. And then right before the conclusion, I get some evaluation. And so that's really not an evaluation, a critical analysis, a critique. And so we do have to kind of compartmentalize it, keep it basically kind of to that first page, and then move on after that as quickly as possible. Also, I think one of the difficulties here for some writers is that you are changing your rhetorical stance throughout this type of an essay, and kind of having to shift, what am I trying to accomplish at this point in my essay. Okay, so the third paragraph here, typically the criteria for evaluation. Sometimes I put parentheses around this paragraph because it's optional at this point. That in a formal critique, we would probably have a statement of criteria, and so in fact, as I'm thinking about this, oftentimes we'll see these sections labeled in a document, and I don't think that's a bad thing. So maybe after your introduction, maybe you don't label that, you just start into that, but maybe you do want to say background overview, or use one of those terms, and then maybe you do want to have a criteria section. But what typically happens with many reviews, evaluations, things that we see out there in the wild, that the criteria become revealed throughout the next section, the evaluation and analysis section. And this is the heart of the document. This is the guts of the document. This is the main reason that we're doing it. So it should make up the bulk of your document. So don't try to reduce the evaluation and analysis section. This is the whole purpose of this. And so what typically happens is, instead of having a separate criteria paragraph, that writers will indicate and apply their criteria throughout the evaluation and analysis section, typically in the topic sentence for each paragraph in that section. So, and then they back it up with supporting evidence from the text, the artifact, the image, the document, whatever that they're evaluating. So, very predictable. And this is, again, another kind of shift in your rhetorical stance, that the background overview, the criteria tend to be more objective in tone, and evaluation analysis is definitely more persuasive in tone. So keep that in mind. Also, I've just indicated like 3 paragraphs here just for the sake of representing this on this slide, but sometimes I do say ... in this kind of schematic, that use as many paragraphs as you need. And remember that this should be the bulk of your document, your critical analysis. So go on at length about it as much as you can. And then typically right before the conclusion, we have some recommendations for improvement. And then the conclusion sums up the entire critical analysis. So I'm not seeing this kind of structure in the drafts that I've looked at. And so just a reminder, we didn't have full attendance on Monday when I went over this in class. And I want to make sure that I'm able to drive this home and kind of give you a visual and a framework to kind of hang your ideas on. So work on this, and I think we'll look at another draft of this in class on Monday, and then we'll figure out what's a reasonable deadline, or I think set a deadline for the final draft of this. So I think at one point I thought about calling up your drafts and talking about them during this presentation, but I think maybe this is more clear and more helpful to do it in this way. So, okay, so those are my thoughts on your rough drafts of your critical analysis, and work on revising them, and I'll see you in class on Monday with your revised drafts. Thank you very much.